right, we got our guests ready, so let's bring in Quincy Carrier. After a quick reminder that the Cleveland Charge are back home this weekend. You can experience Charge basketball at Public Hall this season. The Cleveland Charge are the NBA G League affiliate of the Cavaliers, and they're back in action for their 5th season in Cleveland. Charge alumni like Sam Merrill and Naquan Tomlin and two-way players like Riley Minix and Tristan Enaruma show that the G League is home to future stars of the NBA. Join the Charge for WNBA night on Friday, March 6th at 7 p.m., where they'll celebrate the return of the WNBA to Cleveland by honoring the past and the future of women's basketball in the city. Tickets are on sale now at clevelandcharge.com. And with that, we are thrilled to welcome in Quincy Carrier to the show. How you doing, Quincy?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good, Quincy. Long time no speak. Good to see you again. Where are you at on this? We've been talking about Kyler Murray for the last couple of days. Where are you at in terms of the Browns potentially going after Kyler Murray?
I mean, it's more of a question of if Kyler Murray is willing to play here. He's in a situation where he's going to take the minimum. If he wants to play here for the minimum, I don't see any reason for the Browns to say no to that, right? Like, there's nothing more compelling right now for them to go after for this season than Kyler Murray. That's not to say that Kyler Murray will be a guaranteed can't miss. He's going to be amazing if he's here at quarterback, but you feel better about Kyler Murray than, paying 37-year-old Geno Smith $8 million or whatever you would have to go out there in the open market. Marcus Mariota, the options just aren't great right now for Cleveland. And at least with Kyler, you can hope there that a guy under 30 can provide a level of quarterback play that maybe can propel this team into maybe challenging for a playoff spot.
Be careful, Quincy, because I said exactly what you just said yesterday, and I had 50 people on Twitter tell me I'm a moron, an idiot, a doofus. I mean, I got all kinds of insults, so they're coming your way now.
You say anything on Twitter, somebody's going to call you an idiot for it,
That's
right?
fine.
Like, this
That's
is kind
fair.
of what it is,
You're
right?
right.
I don't think I've said anything in the last 3 years where somebody has thought that it was the most ridiculous thing ever said. You can go out there and point out that the sky's blue, or that Tyvus played at Ohio State, and be like, I don't know, you're wrong. People just argue about anything.
That's not what a source told me.
Well, that's Google.
I heard Tyvus played at Michigan State.
Thought about it. Q, when you look at this roster, what do you think? If you could only fix one thing, right? What would you fix? The one thing that the Browns must do to the roster this season?
No doubt offensive line. That's what they have to fix, right? Like, they've made this emphasis on, the run game. They brought in Todd Monken. A lot of what gets you excited about Todd is what he's been able to do at the quarterback position, yes, but also at the offensive line, with the run game in Baltimore. You got Quinshon Judkins. That's the one guy you really know about on this offense. You're going to want to build this offense through that run game, and that's going to start with the offensive line. And it just makes things easier. You have less things clouding your evaluation of a young quarterback if that's the direction you decide to go this year. If you have a good offensive line, it's the number one thing that they have to address, because let's be real, they've had to address it over the last couple of years. And, Deshaun Watson contract, the fact they have a lot of draft picks, and I think they were a bit overconfident in what they had, kind of led them to this situation where it's like you got to replace 5 guys this offseason. So, yeah, if I had to pick one thing they improved, it would without a doubt, without hesitation, be the offensive line. And I would hope that they spend significant resources in free agency and in the draft on a multitude of positions there, because they got a lot of catching up to do.
That is the most ridiculous picture of Luke Whippler, and every time,
why do we keep
every
showing
time
that
Mike shows that
picture? I giggle every time.
There's very few pictures of offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Clean shot, you got to put it in.
It is.
I actually back Anthony on this decision here.
Yeah, it's funny. Quincy, when we get to the end of the season, what quarterback do you think is going to have started the most games for this team this year? Somebody that's on the roster, somebody that's not on the roster.
You asked me this question last year, and I thought it was going to be Shedeur. Yeah. Well, during the middle of last year.
It was Shedeur.
Yeah. You asked me this, and it was Shedeur.
Yeah.
This year, I think it's going to be somebody from the outside. I think they're going to make a move here. I just don't believe that they could seriously go into a season and think that, Deshaun Watson, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders is going to be enough to sustain them for a year. I think they have to go and look at some outside options. Maybe they go after Anthony Richardson. Maybe they go after a veteran like a Marcus Mariota or something that we talked about, something that's not very exciting. Shedeur, I worry about his turnovers. Like, he had a lot of turnovers at the end of last season that just you can't stay on the field when you're turning the ball over in those situations. If you turn over the ball in that frequency too, which makes me concerned about his ability to stay on the field. And the more he plays, the more the novelty wears off that he's a young quarterback, and the more harsh the evaluations get. Dylan Gabriel, I just find it hard that Todd Monken sees any upside in him in this offense. He seems like the quarterback that he's mentioned the least out of all of those guys there. And then with Deshaun Watson, I mean, like, I think we're a long ways away before we even know if Deshaun Watson can really factor into the backup quarterback role right now. He's coming off another 700-day layoff. If by some miracle he's the week 1 starter this year, he would be on a 691-day layoff, which is equivalent to the 700-day layoff that he still didn't recover from before he tore his Achilles twice. In the season before that, broke his throwing shoulder, right, that ended his season. And he's also, he's had 2 ACL tears in his career, a lot of injuries that he's played through. We're just so far away from knowing where he's at with his body and then mentally with his ability to play football. I mean, he was bad in 2024 on top of it, not even just regular bad. We're talking about bottom of the bottom when it comes to EPA per play. So we're far away from even factoring in Deshaun into the quarterback competition. The way I see it, if you're going to have Shedeur on the roster, he's a viable option, but you need to bring somebody in because there's nobody who's a serious candidate to even compete with Shedeur right now, because I don't factor Deshaun into that. Dylan Gabriel doesn't seem like the direction they want to go. So they got to bring in somebody else, and I think that person's probably going to get a lot of starts this year.
Q, when at this point, every year I always mention a name that I want the Browns to draft in the draft. I want them to take this player. They never listen to me, and the player actually turns out to be somewhat decent.
It was good.
Tez Johnson.
Yeah, that's right.
This year, the answer for me is D'Angelo Pons. I want them. I don't know what round he's going to go, but I want them to draft D'Angelo Pons. And I'm saying this so we can have it on camera that I said I want the Browns to get D'Angelo Pons. Who is a player, no matter what round it is, that you want the Browns to walk away from the draft having?
Kalen Rutledge from Georgia Tech, physical, high motor guard. He is, like, for everybody who complained about Jed Wills over the last few years, you go watch some Kalen Rutledge tape. He is the exact opposite of that, right? Always looking for work, high motor, super physical. And the reason I jumped at him as somebody I want here, we're rebuilding this entire offensive line, which means we're going to have a lot of young guys on this offensive line. And I want somebody in there that can be a culture setter, a tone setter, somebody who's going to lead by example, somebody who's going to, make everybody else feel like they have to step up to get to that level of physicality, that level of energy on the field. And I think Rutledge did that for Georgia Tech. And I think he could do that in the NFL and just kind of be a great kind of catalyst for a young offensive line that's trying to find their footing. He can add that physical edge that I think the Browns desperately need because they just could not get pushed last year on the offensive line. And overall, it's been a long time since we felt like the Browns had a real physical offensive line.
That is true. What's the speculation about where he's going to get drafted? Like the ballpark?
I think he's probably a round 3 guy, round 3, round 4 guy. Right. The Browns have a lot of picks in that area, so I think they can make it happen. The real question is, like, what are they prioritizing when it comes to offensive line? Are they just looking at traits from a physical standpoint, or are they prioritizing some of those mental traits? Because I think if you prioritize some physical traits, you could pass him up. But I think those mental traits for him at that position, I like fighters on the offensive and defensive line, right? I always talk about it when I evaluate him. Can he fight, right? And that guy can fight, and he loves fighting. And I think we need fighters.
What's your ideal first round right now? I mean, obviously, we got a long way till the draft. But as of now, what to you is the perfect, when the first round's over, that you're feeling best about at the moment?
I want to feel good about my tackle situation, so I probably want to go tackle early. Monroe Freeling seems like the name that a lot of people are defaulting to at the left tackle conversation around where the Browns are picking. And I would love to leave the draft, and I think it's possible to leave the draft with like a Monroe Freeling and a combination of like Mekhi Lemon, because I think that two of those receivers are probably going to drop a little bit further than we think, right? Between Carnell Tate, Jalen Tyson, and obviously Mekhi Lemon. Yeah. I think one of those guys are going to drop. And if you can get one of those three plus an offensive lineman in the first round, I personally will be doing backflips live on stream. I'll be excited. So that would solve a lot of issues. I think you can get a lot of interior offensive line talent late in this draft. I think Mekhi would give you somebody that you could get the ball to. He could be a playmaker with the ball. And I think they desperately need that type of receiver in that room.
Even though it doesn't make sense need-wise, if the Browns take a defensive player from Ohio State at 6,
go Bucks.
Are you going to be angry or are you going to understand?
I love defense. I love the physical part of football, so I'll talk myself into a defensive player at 6 if it happens. I'm not going to be one who's upset about that. I think if they do it, I would love for it to be Sonny Styles. Like, I think that's the guy that makes the most sense because he's just so athletic, plays that linebacker position. Browns have such good defensive tackle play already, and then you could just see Sonny just kind of seamlessly fitting in there, playing next to Carson Schlesinger. Would it be the best use of resources, in my opinion? No, but will I be able to find my fun in watching that? Yeah, absolutely. Same thing with Caleb Downs. I just think that they could allocate those resources a little bit more efficiently, and I think in the situation that the Browns are in, where they're trying to dig themselves out of the Deshaun Watson hole, they can't afford to play that luxury game of getting that extra defensive piece when they're already, I think, good enough to be a top 5 defense with what they got.
Nobody loves to trade down quite like the Browns. What about a trade down?
Oh yeah, I think Andrew Berry's putting the sniper scope on Dallas is my speculation. I think they want to move back between that 7 to 12 range because I think they feel like they can get one of their tackles or one of their wide receivers in that range and still walk away happy with what they get with that first pick, while possibly being able to either get a second round pick or maybe a first pick next year. I get why they want to do this. Again, if we're looking at what they're digging out of with Deshaun Watson, 3 first-round picks, they got to find a way to get that talent recouped onto this team as soon as possible. So I get why a trade down would be attractive, especially in a draft like this where the difference between what's going to be available at 6 and 12, it's probably not that huge of a difference here. Like a Monroe Freeling could easily be available at 12. I wonder, too, if they're willing to move up from 24 into that teen area and kind of walk away with 2 guys that they highly covet in this first round, because I don't think we've really thought about that possibility as much.
Q, you and I have had some back and forth on the quarterbacks in this draft. So I'm going to give you Fernando or the field. Who turns out the better quarterback, Fernando or the field? Which one you taking?
This is the easiest one. I'm taking Fernando Mendoza over that field. This class has been interesting because like a lot of the guys that people thought were going to have those kind of breakout years, they really just had the opposite of it, right? Cade Klubnik's year at Clemson was really tough to watch. Same thing with Garrett Nussmeier. Drew Aller, he got injured, and then even before it wasn't really what you wanted out of it. But then you look at Fernando Mendoza. He was somebody who had a little bit of hype in the offseason. Some people talking about him being QB1, and then he has the season that he has. He plays well. The only thing that makes me even think about being hesitant here with Mendoza over the field is that he's going to the Raiders, and the Raiders just have such a bad track record with the draft in general, right? Like the Raiders, the Browns, and the Bears are the 3 teams. It's like you could draft Jordan to play quarterback for you, and you're like, I don't know, man, something could happen, something wrong could happen. Because I felt really strong about Caleb Williams, and he struggled way more than I thought he was going to struggle coming out of college.
Yeah, we got to maybe throw the Jets in there too with those 3 teams. But yeah, you're right.
Most certainly, yes, good ad.
Yeah, they belong in that conversation as well. All right, Quincy, good stuff, man, as always. Thank you for taking the time. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you guys for having me.